Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Gorodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. Welcome to today's public meeting of September 25th, 2024. My apologies for the slightly later start. We have some commissioners who got stuck in various degrees of security and traffic as related to the UN General Assembly. We have a short but immensely significant agenda to go through today. We're going to start with our only public hearing for today. An office acquisition literally across the street from this hearing room in the financial district. The Department of the Aging is looking to acquire 80,000 square feet of more modern and compact commercial space at 14 Wall Street to relocate their offices from 2 Lafayette Street. Once that hearing wraps, we will open a special review session to discuss modifications to City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, the Department of City Planning's initiative to tackle New York's housing crisis by updating zoning to allow for the creation of a little more housing in every neighborhood. From there, we will resume our public meeting agenda with a vote on this important initiative. I'll have much more to say on City of Yes at that time. Next, we're going to vote today on Brooklyn Yards, a multi-building development in Borough Park that would platform over an active freight line to construct 14 buildings with a total of 270 homes, around 80 of them income restricted. The project would also feature office and retail space, as well as 3 publicly accessible open space areas with playgrounds. It would sit adjacent to the D and N trains at the 62nd Street station. Staying in Brooklyn, the Commission will vote on a fresh certification for 1034 to 1042 Atlantic Avenue in Crown Heights. With fresh certification, this project would include a new supermarket that provides a full range of grocery products, including fresh meat, fruit, and vegetables. Thanks to that inclusion, the building will go from 17 to 18 stories, increasing the number of homes to nearly 240, of which almost 50 would be permanently income restricted. This site is near the C train and the Franklin Avenue shuttle. From there, we'll head to Midtown Manhattan for a vote on the proposed conversion of 10 Rockefeller Plaza. This special permit would turn parts of this building, including some of the ground floor, cellar, subcellar, and floors 7 through 16, from commercial uses to hotel uses. The resulting hotel would contain 136 rooms, just steps from great attractions like Rockefeller Center, 30 Rock, and Radio City Music Hall. The Commission's next vote will be on the Bay Terrace Shopping Center's proposed parking authorizations. This Northeast Queens Mall wants to enlarge its retail but reduce its parking requirement. These authorizations will reduce the number of parking spaces while ensuring that the parking lot's layout and circulation is sufficient for customers. Our last votes for today are on 2 authorizations in Tote Hill and Staten Island. The former, 758 Tote Hill Road, seeks to facilitate the development of 2 homes and the enlargement of an existing home. The latter, 18 Emerson Avenue, is looking to develop a new residence and facilitate alterations to an existing single-family home. So, with that, Madam Secretary, let's get started.
Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held remotely through the NYC Engage portal and in person in the CPC hearing room, 120 Broadway, Lower Concourse. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. I will now call the roll. Chair Gorodnick.
Aye. I'm sorry, I'm here.
Vice Chair Knuckles? Okay. Commissioner Benjamin? Present. Commissioner Cerullo?
Here.
Commissioner Crowell?
Present.
Commissioner Dewitt?
Here.
Commissioner Gold?
Here.
Commissioner Goodrich?
Here.
Commissioner Kermani? Here. Commissioner Mann?
Here.
Commissioner Marin?
Here.
Commissioner Osorio?
Here.
Commissioner Ramprashad?
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the public meeting of Wednesday, September 11th, 2024, and of the special public meeting of Monday, September 23rd, 2024.
Okay, thank you very much. On the minutes, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the public meeting of September 11 and special public meeting of September 23rd. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Marin. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, minutes are approved.
Scheduling. Calendar number 1. We have resolutions for adoption scheduling Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, for a public hearing to be held in person in the CPC hearing room, 120 Broadway, and remotely through the NYC Engage portal.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Benjamin. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, resolution is adopted.
Okay. We're going to move ahead to the public hearing section on page 10.
Okay, we're going to ask those who are here to testify on the one item that we're having a public hearing on today to limit their comments to 3 minutes. And Madam Secretary, would you like to go ahead and introduce that item?
For Manhattan, calendar number 26, 14 Wall Street Department for the Aging Office Space Acquisition, CD1, N250009PXM, public hearing, and the matter of an application for a notice of intent to acquire office space concerning 14 Wall Street Department for the Aging Office Space Acquisition.
Great. On behalf of the applicant here, and I believe that they are on Zoom, all of them, we have Michael Ognaveni, Vutha Nue, Thomas Morandi, Alex Kraskowski, and Chris Grove. So whenever you all are ready to proceed, you can get started. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Michael Ognaveni, First Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer at the New York City Department for the Aging. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss our application for relocating office space to 14 Wall Street. Next slide. NYC Aging is headquartered in Lower Manhattan in a city-owned building at 2 Lafayette Street. We've been at this address since the late 1980s. We occupy 7 non-contiguous floors of the 24 floor building, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11, and a small file space on the 10th floor. We house 329 full-time city employees, along with 100+ part-time non-traditional staff. We provide a number of services and programs to 150 older adult clients on any given day, both as direct service and via contracted service providers. Next slide. Now, NYC Aging seeks a new and more adequate location to operate. We would relinquish the 136,000 square feet at 2 Lafayette, as the floors are not sufficient to support our operations and are in various states of disrepair due to the age of the facility and its infrastructure. Next. The city seeks to lease 80,000 square feet of office space and 802 square feet of storage space at 14 Wall Street for use by NYC Aging. Next slide, please. We would take the 11th, 12th, and 14th floors and would be the largest tenant at this address. Next. In contrast with the current space, the proposed relocation is ideal. The building entrance and lobby are clean and inviting. Operations would be contained to 3 contiguous floors. We would offer new, more robust training rooms for clients and staff. Next slide. Each floor will have a large pantry eating space, which we don't have currently. There's excellent access to mass transit. The space is well designed and consistent throughout. The new office space will support staff and allow for more efficient and effective operations and delivery of service. Across the country, there is a growing older adult population. In fact, by December 31st of this year, every baby boomer will be 60+ years old. Accordingly, service needs are certain to increase as the population does over the coming years. 14 Wall Street would allow for NYC Aging staff and training space to expand as necessary. Next slide, please. The following slides are plans for each floors. This slide shows the storage basement in the basement. Next. This is the 11th floor. Next slide. This is the 12th floor, which would include training and almost all public-facing space, including an information and referral call center and Medicare enrollment support. Next slide. This is the 14th floor, which would also include the executive suite. And finally, next slide. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this application for office space at 14 Wall Street. Staff are excited by the prospect of new and ideal workspace, and Vutha Gui and I are here to take any questions.
Great, thank you. And we'd be excited to have you as next door neighbors. Let me see if there's questions from the panel for you. Commissioner Gold.
Thank you. One quick question. Seems like it makes a lot of sense, but out of curiosity, at the review session, it was put forward that to get your current space to where it needs to be, it would cost $87 million in 10 years. Can you just talk about that a little bit? What are the things that are necessary and what's embedded in that number?
I will defer mostly to DCAS, but this study was done before COVID. So we're talking $80-some million 4 or 5 years ago. Again, we're a 22-story building. The top, I think from 12 or 13 up, has been renovated about 10 years ago. This space that we've been in hasn't been renovated at all. It would require, I imagine, a complete gut. As it is, we're giving up 130,000 square feet, taking 80. The 80 is much more efficient than the 130. There's a lot of dead space, a lot of winding hallways, a lot of odd-shaped rooms. I think it would probably include a complete gut. When we did look at it back then, they said it would take about 7 years, a year per floor. Empty a floor, renovate it, move us up there, empty another floor, and do that for 7 years. By the time we did that, the first floor done would have been obsolete in terms of cabling. So we just figured it didn't make sense to do one floor at a time. To move us out and move us back also would have taken time and expense. It just made sense. We found a space that's pretty much move-in ready, except for the training rooms and cleaning, and it would save a tremendous amount on the cost to renovate. However, of course, once we vacate, then DCAS will have to decide what to do with the space.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Other questions? Okay. Seeing none, I'm just going to make sure that there are no other members of the public wishing to testify on this item, calendar number 26, the office space acquisition for DIFTA. Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the hearing on calendar number 26. Madam Secretary, back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair, at this moment, we'll pause the public meeting. We'll do a slight recess and open a special review session. So 1 second.
Great. The purpose of the special review session is to have the Department of City Planning share some of the details of changes being made to City of Yes for housing opportunity. Then we will resume the public meeting and we will carry on with all of our votes. Is that correct, Madam Secretary?
That is correct, Chair. So I'll go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome to City Planning Commission special review session for Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. The time is 11:24 a.m. and a quorum is present. Our only agenda item for the special review session is a future vote discussion concerning City of Yes for housing opportunity, which had a public hearing at the July 10th public meeting. John is here to present.
Great. Welcome, John.
And good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today to present 2 proposed modifications in addition to those already covered at previous post-hearing follow-up sessions. First, the department proposes to exempt public housing campuses from the proposal to eliminate obstacles to contextual development on zoning lots with existing buildings. Public housing sites are subject to an alternate federal land use procedure, that's HUD Section 18, under the U.S. Housing Act, that zoning can't touch. This process has evolved over recent years to consist of project-specific tenant consultation and approval for 100% affordable housing projects. Among campus-type developments, public housing sites alone already have an effective path to enable contextual infill. And given the pace of positive outcomes from this process in recent years, the department does not want to upset, what has become a very delicately balanced, multi-layered, tenant-focused process. Judging from the feedback that we received so far in public review, we think that this is responsive to many folks who have participated in public review process as well. Second, the department proposes to eliminate the sunset provision for off-site UAP in R10 areas. The department heard from affordable housing providers that rely on the off-site program to support affordable housing production. The department also heard from housing advocates and industry professionals who believe the sunset provision could reduce housing and affordable housing production in the highest density parts of the city over time. In response to these considerations, the department proposes to eliminate the 10-year time limit on the ability of new affordable housing to generate offsite bonus for use in R10 districts and R10 equivalents only. I'll quickly recap the proposed modifications that we've already discussed. First, the department proposes to limit the distance between buildings relief on zoning lots with existing buildings to new contextual developments on those zoning lots. So any new non-contextual development on those zoning lots with existing buildings, that will remain subject to the existing 60-foot distance between buildings requirements rather than the 40-foot standard in the multiple dwelling law that we propose to extend to other zoning lots with existing buildings when they provide contextual development. Again, this reinforces the intent of that proposal by encouraging any new infill on those sites to be modern, height-limited, contextual development rather than the tall, skinny buildings that many people react against. Second, the department proposes to vest developments that have filed for permits, building permits, by the date of enactment for housing opportunity and have received DOB zoning approval within a year and HPD approval, if it's relevant, if there's affordable housing, within 2 years. This means that the development could proceed under the pre-CHO zoning if desired. It can do the new zoning if it wants. It can do the pre-CHO zoning if it wants as well. This would also apply to large scales and other phased developments that have certified into public review, and that, of course, includes large scales and other phased developments that are already under construction with existing buildings. With that, I'm happy to take any final questions.
Great. Well, thank you, John, and I just want to again thank you for all of your extraordinary efforts to pull this together and to be responsive in the ways that you've just articulated. Let me just see if there are questions from commissioners about these changes, starting with Commissioner Mann.
Yeah, I had a question about the vesting provision to start. So we had on Monday a discussion about the 960 Franklin proposal, and I think the R6A with UAP has a worse shadow impact than the R7 as modified by the Commission. If the applicant withdraws, which they've indicated they may, including in the press, I'm wondering if the vesting provision can limit the applicability of the UAP bonus so we don't have a worse shadow impact than the one we discussed on Monday.
I'm not sure that the vesting changes proposed here are relevant to that project at all, since no permits have been issued and it's unclear what the plans are for that site.
No, it wouldn't be the proposed vesting provisions. It'd be an amendment to vesting provisions to indicate applications that have been certified under certain circumstances couldn't take advantage of the UAP. So it's when we're voting today, but just coming up because it was in the press this morning and because we had a discussion on Monday indicating that the R6A with UAP would have a worse shadow impact than what we approved.
Right. So the way that the vesting provisions work is that they provide an option for sites that are vested to proceed under the new zoning or proceed under the old zoning. So I'm not sure that it would address the concern that you've raised here.
Right. I guess just to ask the question maybe a third different way, how do we ensure that the R6A, and this is maybe a council discussion, in the event that the application is withdrawn, doesn't have a worse shadow impact than the one that we approved on Monday, which is the subject of a lot of public conversation. So I think it's just worth something maybe to have a conversation with the council about so we don't inadvertently create a situation which the Commission determined wasn't the right outcome.
Noted. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions? Questions here? Okay. Question from Commissioner Benjamin.
I understand that the working group has been meeting regularly and has come up with some proposals that would apply particularly to ADUs and to some of the other items that are within this whole package. And I was wondering if we could schedule a time to have a public briefing on those packages of proposals, obviously not before we vote, but I think there's been so much interest that I would be interested to know how certain items within the ADU are going to be handled to make them safe.
Yes, that's a question for me. The answer is that working group or agencies that are considering the possibilities here, they are exploring a variety of different alternatives, and I expect that at a time in which they have some recommendations, that would be a very good thing for us to do, to have a public engagement on that subject. But yes, the short answer is yes.
Thank you very much.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you again, John.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Secretary, shall we pivot back to our regularly scheduled programming?
Yes, Chair. There are no other items for the special review session, so I will restart the public meeting. 1 second. Okay. Good morning. This is a continuation of the City Planning Commission public meeting held remotely through the NYC Engage portal and in person in the CPC Hearing Room 120 Broadway, Lower Concourse. The time is 11:33 a.m. and a quorum is present. The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 5. Okay. We'll start first with Borough Brooklyn. Calendar numbers 3 through 15, Brooklyn Yards, CDs 11 and 12. Calendar number 3, C 230182 ZMK. Calendar number 4, N 230183 ZRK. Calendar number 5, C 230184 ZSK. Calendar number 6, C 230185 ZSK. Calendar number 7, C 230188 ZSK. Calendar number 8, C 230189 ZSK. Calendar number 9, C 230190 ZSK. Calendar number 10, C 230191 ZSK. Calendar number 11, C 230196 ZSK. Calendar number 12, N 230186 ZAK. Calendar number 13, N 230187 ZAK. Calendar number 14, N 230192 ZAK. Calendar number 15, N 230193 ZAK. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments, special permits, and for the grant of authorizations concerning Brooklyn Yards, for favorable reports on calendar numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and for the adoption of calendar numbers 12, 13, 14, and 15. Chair Garodnick.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Benjamin.
I vote no on number 4, N 230189 ZRK, and yes on the remainder.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich. Yes. Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and calendar numbers 12, 13, 14, and 15 have been adopted. Borough Brooklyn, calendar number 16, 1034, 1042 Atlantic Avenue Fresh, CD8, N 240379 ZAK, and the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning 1034, 1042 Atlantic Avenue Fresh for the adoption of calendar number 16. Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak recused. Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Abstained.
Abstain. Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad. Calendar number 16 has been adopted. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 17, 10 Rockefeller Center Hotel Special Permit, CD5, C240201 ZSM, in the matter of an application for a special permit concerning 10 Rockefeller Center Hotel Special Permit. For a favorable report on calendar number 17, Chair Garodnick.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles. Okay, yes, will do. Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich. Yes. Commissioner Kamani. Yes. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 17. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 18, 2360 Broadway, the Bell Nord is laid over. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 19, 20, and 21, Bay Terrace Shopping Center parking authorizations. BD7, calendar number 19, N240331ZAK, or ZAQ, sorry. Calendar number 20, N240332ZAQ. Calendar number 21, N240333ZAQ. And the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning Bay Terrace Shopping Center for the adoption of calendar numbers 19, 20, and 21. Chair Grodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes, and Madam Secretary, please record an affirmative vote for item 16 as well.
Yes, Vice Chair. Thank you. Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Medin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 19, 20, and 21 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 22, 23, 24. 758 Toad Hill Road, CD2, calendar number 22, N240101ZAR. Calendar number 23, N240102ZAR. Calendar number 24, N240103ZAR. And the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning 758 Toad Hill Road. For the adoption of calendar numbers 22, 23, and 24. Chair Grodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes, and Madam Secretary, please record item 17 as an affirmative vote as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Benjamin.
I'm voting yes on these items, but I would like to note, I'm voting yes on these items, but I would like to note that I think it's a crime that these new residences will have private
Sewage.
yeah, that they will not tie into the city system. They will have a septic system. In 2024, we are building houses with septic systems. And that part of the reason is because they don't front on a map street, which we are permitting in this, and that the map street at this point in time may not have sewer trunk lines anyway. But I think we really need to look at what we're doing in a borough that's growing and housing, that private septic systems are in their nature problematic. DEP is trying to get rid of both septic and private sewage treatment systems, the package plants that many developments on Staten Island have, because they have found over time that the developments do not necessarily maintain and keep up these private facilities, and eventually the city will take them over and have to upgrade and do other things. So I just want everyone to be aware that this is a problem in what we're approving here. But I vote yes. They have no other options.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Well, all I want to say is, Commissioner Benjamin, if you'd like to move to Staten Island and run for office, I'd be happy to run your campaign. You raise a really critical issue that is actually sort of the history of Staten Island's problem with development, which is an interesting day to even raise that issue. But totally agree, as not only sort of the political will of the borough agrees, but also the residents who are faced with not being connected to the city's sewer system. With that said, I vote aye on these items.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich. Yes. Commissioner Kamani.
Yes, with thanks to Commissioner Benjamin for raising those issues. I think they're really important.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Medin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 22, 23, and 24 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 25, 18 Emerson Avenue, CD2, N210470ZAR, and the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning 18 Emerson Avenue. For the adoption of calendar number 25, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin. Aye. Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dueck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yep.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar number 25 has been adopted. Okay, our last vote. Citywide, calendar number 2. City of Yes for Housing Opportunity. Citywide. N 240290ZRY in the matter of an application for a zoning text amendment concerning the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity. For a favorable report as modified on calendar number 2, Chair Garodnick.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Before casting my vote, I would just like to take a moment to talk about the significance of this proposal. There is no denying that New York City is gripped by a profound housing crisis that has been decades in the making. The apartment vacancy rate is at the lowest level since the 1960s. Over half of renters are rent burdened, paying more than 30% of their income in rent. Each new housing lottery that opens receives tens of thousands of applications. And when the New York City Housing Authority opened the wait list for housing choice vouchers this summer, more than 500,000 people applied. Why is this happening? For decades, we simply have not built enough homes to keep up with demand. Over the last 60 years, we have piled on more and more complicated and restrictive zoning rules that stymied urgently needed homes from being built. Even though New York City's population has grown considerably over the past 4 decades, we have built fewer homes than in the prior 40 years when our population was shrinking. Last decade, we added 800,000 new jobs and just 200,000 new homes. And the homes that we're building are concentrated in only a few areas, putting all the pressure on the backs of just a few communities. Last year, 10 community districts created as much housing as the other 49 combined. And some neighborhoods even lost housing. When there aren't enough homes to go around, New Yorkers suffer from high rents, displacement and gentrification pressure, and homelessness, while home ownership becomes increasingly unattainable. Families find it harder and harder to stay in the city. Working New Yorkers face punishingly long commutes. Aging New Yorkers can't downsize or remain close to their families. But we don't have to live this way. We have the power to update our outdated rules and generate the homes New Yorkers need across the city. That's what City of Yes for Housing Opportunity will do. Allow for a little more housing in every neighborhood to take a big bite out of our housing crisis citywide. The modest, common sense proposals in City of Yes for Housing Opportunity have been crafted to match the character of different neighborhoods, from low density areas to the high rises of lower Manhattan. With these changes, we can add more housing everywhere without significant changes in any one neighborhood. For example, in medium and high density areas, it would create a universal affordability preference. This would allow apartment buildings to be about 20% larger, but only if that additional space is dedicated to affordable housing. If UAP were in place since 2014, it would have generated about 20,000 income-restricted homes, enough for over 40,000 New Yorkers. In lower density areas, City of Yes would legalize small accessory dwelling units like backyard cottages or converted garages, space that can be used for an aging parent or a child returning home from college. This is a great way to give homeowners some extra income and allow family members to stay in the neighborhood they grew up in. Transit-oriented development and town center zoning would allow modest apartment buildings to be built near transit and above retail storefronts along commercial corridors. They would be capped at 3, 4, or 5 stories. They would have buildings like these. They would match existing buildings across so many lower density parts of the city, but they are banned under current zoning. City of Yes would fix that. This proposal would also make it easier for organizations with campuses, such as churches, and other faith-based organizations to build contextual infill housing that fits into the neighborhood rather than being forced into tall, out-of-context buildings or nothing at all. By creating more flexibility in zoning, we can make it easier for underused offices and other non-residential buildings to convert into housing across residential parts of the city rather than just in a few select areas, as is the case today. The plan would also re-legalize small and shared housing models with common facilities like kitchens, which is a great option for young single adults to find more affordable housing options. Now that the state has lifted the arbitrary FAR cap, City of Yes will create new high-density zoning districts that would allow more housing and require permanent income-restricted housing in high-demand central areas where it is urgently needed. Tools to be created and to be used at a later date. And last but not least, parking. With City of Yes, we will lift arbitrary and costly mandates that force developers to build parking where it isn't actually needed. Not a limit or a cap on parking. In areas where New Yorkers are more reliant on cars, many developers will still choose to include parking spaces. It just means that parking will be created in response to demand rather than government mandate. If someone wants to include lots of parking in their building, that's fine. If it's unnecessary, that's fine too. With these changes, City of Yes will create housing opportunities in every neighborhood, including more housing types, so New Yorkers have more options in their communities that fit their needs. Through this approach, we can create a more affordable future in which New Yorkers have the housing opportunity and choice that they deserve. From the public review process so far, it is clear that many New Yorkers agree on the need for us to address the city's housing crisis. City of Yes received positive recommendations from Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, Queens Borough President Donovan Richards, and 18 of the city's community boards. During our marathon public hearing in July, we heard from more than 200 people over the course of the day, a majority of whom testified in favor of the proposal. But whether they were for or against, I would like to thank our community boards, borough presidents, and members of the public for taking the time to review this proposal and offer their thoughtful input. City of Yes for Housing Opportunity is one of the most momentous projects in the history of the Department of City Planning, and it took a truly stellar team to get us to this point. First, I want to thank every planner who presented on this initiative to the public. We held over 175 community board meetings throughout the city in the spring and summer to explain the proposal, answer questions, and garner feedback. This massive undertaking was thanks to the hard work and long hours put in by the 5 borough offices and the community planning and civic engagement team led by Lara Merida, who's here. Updating 60-year-old zoning text and getting it through public review is not easy. Those who worked behind the scenes were just as valuable in bringing this to fruition. Again, there are far too many individuals to mention, but I would like to shout out the Environmental Assessment and Review Division led by Stephanie Shilo, Government Affairs led by Danielle DeCerbo, Counsel's Office led by Susan Amron, Communications led by Jonathan Patkowski, Pipeline and Commission Operations led by our Secretary here today, Sarah Avila, Planning Support led by Stephen Everett, Strategic Planning by Laura Smith, Tech Review, Stephen Leonard, and Zoning led by Frank Rushala for their smarts, stamina, and steadfastness. You are among New York City's brightest and most committed, and we thank you for all of your efforts. Finally, though, I want to offer my immense gratitude to our housing team, who took the reins on shaping this deeply important proposal and were present every step of the way, from crafting the zoning text to presenting to the public and more. These individuals, Veronica Brown, Sam Levy, Marcus Luzaire, and Winnie Shen, truly embody the best of civil service. And last, but certainly not least, I want to thank our project lead and Director of Housing, John Mangan, who you just heard from a few moments ago, and of course throughout this process. His brilliance, ingenuity, and tireless dedication are what helped to make City of Yes for Housing Opportunity possible. So thank you, John, and thanks to all of you. And with that, Madam Secretary, I gladly and enthusiastically vote aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Thank you. I believe that extraordinary challenges, such as the one that we face with affordable housing, call for extraordinary measures. Accordingly, I think the proposals in the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, such as the university affordability opportunity and the loosening of parking requirements. Parking has added millions to the cost of affordable housing in the City of New York. So I think with just those two measures, as well as the others enumerated by the chair, will make a substantial dent in our efforts to bring about more affordable housing. I add my voice to the appreciation of those within DCP that have met this challenge with their expertise and these proposals. I vote yes with great expectation that the city will be better able to bring about affordable housing in the future.
Commissioner Benjamin.
I've spent a lot of time reviewing this proposal, and I am still torn. I understand the need to increase housing production within the city, but as with the four borough presidents who, as Dan said, supported this, they had a variety of conditions that went with their support that they thought would make the proposal more encompassing and better. I don't have the luxury of adding conditions to my vote, but if I did, I would really seriously reconsider the ADUs, the transit-oriented development where it is being expanded to include Long Island Railroad and Metro North stations, since those facilities don't operate 24 hours a day. They may only have one train an hour. So it's not clear to me that those are places where increased density should be permitted. And I'm troubled by the parking elimination. In my many years in land use, most communities have wanted more parking, not less parking. And I understand this will not prohibit a developer from building parking, but I think in a number of instances, it will limit the parking that is built, and I think make it potentially more difficult for people who already live there. We have regionalized shopping and other things to the point where people in many parts of the city require cars in order to go about their daily activities or weekly activities. So I think we have to find a way to accommodate that without making it an issue of people who have money will be able to pay for parking and people who don't will continue to get tickets. I believe that some of these problems can be addressed via regulatory reform, which I think is as important or more important than the zoning reform. I think that the key issue affecting housing production, particularly affordable housing production, is financial. And if we don't put more money into affordable housing and we continue to merely rely on the private market to provide affordable housing for us with some subsidy or tax abatement, I don't think we're going to change the picture for affordable housing that much. But I think we can and should be looking at, not us, because that's not our job, but I think many of these proposals will require looking at the multiple dwelling code, the fire code, DEP code and the building code to look at things that make our building so expensive in the city. We all want to see safe dwelling units that are appropriate for families of all sizes and complexions. But I think it's time to take a more holistic look at why housing isn't being built, not just here, but around the country. That said, I do think that there are some opportunities that are presented here that I can't ignore. Would I prefer to condition it? Yes, but not being able to do that, my only choice is a yes vote or a no vote. And given the discussions that I understand are ongoing, I will vote yes. However, I may want to submit a concurring report.
Commissioner Cerullo.
With this being the last of the City of Yes proposals we are considering, at least at this juncture, I must take a moment to commend the mayor and the administration, our chair, Dan Gorodnick, and the entire city planning department team for all of the work and vision that was put into the three of them. No question that I had a few issues with some of the opportunities these applications provided, but who wouldn't? When there are so many big and bold recommendations on so many critical land use issues packed into one and then two and three proposals, it's nearly impossible to find every single thing in them to be without concern or question. But as we know, the previous two successfully advanced, and today we are likely seeing this third make its way to the council. Nothing easy about getting here and where it's headed, so that must be acknowledged today. City of Yes, housing. It sounds perfect, and in many ways it provides some creative solutions to a generally agreed upon crisis in our city. And in some situations, like the opportunity it provides for residential conversions of commercial office buildings and the town center transit-oriented development, are thoughtful and necessary. And I say that as someone who understands the challenges, particularly in the central business districts, and how we need to be forward-thinking to deal with new commercial space challenges while creating new housing and more engaging neighborhoods by adding residents. At the same time, however, and today more importantly, given my role on this commission representing a borough that is primarily lower density, and someone who understands those kinds of districts too, there are many issues and concerns that get in the way of my being able to facilitate this application from moving forward. We don't have enough time to explain it all in detail, but I know for Staten Island and many other areas around the city, ADUs, reduction of lot sizes, the undoing of decades of fighting land use abuses, and the clear reversal of the successes that have been achieved after years of fighting to preserve the physical built neighborhood environment that those who made Staten Island their home desired, make it impossible to support this one-size-fits-all solution to the housing crisis. What is missing from this discussion is what many lower density districts like Staten Island are and have been doing in the area of housing development throughout the years and even today. And clearly on Staten Island, almost always without the corresponding and necessary infrastructure to support it. To put numbers to this, as we consider this proposal today, based on the actions of this commission, and I mean this actual commission, and the commissions of the recent past, which I have had the honor to serve with. On Staten Island alone, there are approximately 4,000 new units of housing that are approved to be built, but not yet realized. About 4,000. Stapleton Waterfront, Bay Street Corridor, River North, Cole Street, Princess Point, projects from the North Shore to the South Shore are coming, almost all with guaranteed levels of affordability. all with new residents who will become part of the Staten Island community. Additionally, nearly every meeting, including today, in fact, we approve certifications and authorizations, also representing neighborhoods from the North Shore to the South Shore, that facilitate the subdivisions of larger lots that were, in rare cases, vacant or either hosted one home to make room for another, or sometimes even resulting in the demolition of an existing one to build more than one or two or more. The market and existing zoning schemes across Staten Island, including our special district areas, already provide for a little more housing in every neighborhood. And Staten Island is certainly doing its part in that. So while I completely agree with the principle and the goal of City of Yes housing, I have to say that the current zoning structure already provides many opportunities for new housing units and does it in a way that enables the communities where new housing occurs not to have undermined all the reasons why they chose to call their neighborhood home. So with that said, I respectfully vote no.
Commissioner Crowell.
Thank you. I want to follow the sentiments of the chair, who has been a great champion and leader in getting us to this point. And I also thank the entire department and our housing team and John's leadership for all their amazing work. I recognize the breadth and complexity of the challenges that needed to be addressed to reach our worthy goals today. I also recognize that our city is a work in progress, as is our zoning resolution. I vote yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the comments of my colleagues, both in the positive and negative comments that I've heard. And, of course, thank the agency for the hard work that they've done on this, and I vote yes.
Commissioner Gold.
As I think we can all acknowledge, we're certainly in a housing crisis, and with vacancy rates at a 50-year low. To me, really to everyone, I think that is a shocking statistic. City of Yes definitely has, some terrific potential. At the same time, there are some issues. That said, in my mind, we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think I've said that before. So, the changes embedded in City of Yes have the potential to add over 100,000 homes. It'll take some time for us to see the benefit, but we have a responsibility to do everything we can to increase housing availability. So with that, I'd also like to thank the department and echo the comments of the chair, and I vote yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
So I am going to start this off nice and easy. Thank you to DCP for just being so accessible and meeting with us and explaining everything up until the 11th hour yesterday. Thank you so much to Chair Gorodnick for the same. Very appreciative. We had many meetings and you were able to explain everything. This is a huge plan with lots of moving pieces. And so, ADUs, good build more housing, good transit-centered housing, good removal of the campus, NYCHA part for infill, good. And I just want to thank DCP for listening to Commissioner Osorio and Benjamin and I on that, which we had many meetings and expressed our grievances. Let's talk about the not so good, the affordability. For me, when I hear about this large housing plan, my first thought was we are finally going to get to address the things that people have been complaining about. The studios, the disproportionate number of studios in 1 bedrooms versus 2 and 3 bedrooms, or in other words, anti-family housing, or the lack of true affordable housing when we have $3,000 studios. That is the actual income restricted affordable rate. Only 30% of, the MIH making it only 30% affordability, 25 to 30. Let's address that. No. In fact, the affordability piece here is very modest, and it is a preference, and it is that if you're a developer, if you want to add 20% new housing, that has to be at 60% AMI, which is about $65,000 for one person, approximately. That's still moderate income. And I feel strongly about the affordability piece because I spent 12 years as a tenants' rights attorney listening to low-income New Yorker tenants who are Uber drivers, who are home health care workers, who are looking for housing, are being evicted, and can't find anything. And sitting on the City Planning Commission while doing that work, I don't do it anymore, but it was a wily experience because I couldn't even tell them that it's going to get better. Is this plan going to make that better? I don't think so. I think what it will do is make it slightly better, but it's certainly not a big plan. With the affordability piece, I think that in many ways it sort of just addresses the appetizer while skipping the entree. Again, we still need to address the fact that the actual affordability measures that we deal with every day need work. Let me move on to faith-based organizations. This was another part of the plan, one of the moving pieces, and I'm going to try to address things that others haven't addressed, but the faith-based part, for me, when I hear of office to housing conversions, great. Faith-based organizations converting to housing, I think that there are some things that we need to watch out for. For example, we have a lot of private equity companies that go and target and basically bully homeowners into giving up their property, that they'll buy their property out. The same thing happens. Do we really think that the same thing won't happen with faith-based organizations, with struggling churches, where you have developers who might say, you know, we'll give you money, we'll pay for this if this can be converted to housing? I don't know that we have any safeguards for that, and I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about developers being able to find loopholes and use that without any safeguards. The last part I will address is this sort of framing of this project as, and I think this has sort of been in the last end, as this like racial justice framing, that this is for Black and brown New Yorkers. You know, I just want to address the elephant in the room. It is disproportionately Black and brown New Yorkers who are being pushed out of New York. There have been many articles about it. I think it's 200,000 Black New Yorkers in the last 2 decades. Very similar amounts for Asian American New Yorkers. And for me, I think that framing critics of the project as this sort of like they're only white homeowners in Staten Island and Queens who are so-called NIMBYs and that's it, and so this project is for Black and brown New York. I really reject that narrative. There were lots of Black and brown New Yorkers who came and testified against this project. Precisely the wording and the framing that they used are, why are we giving away the city to private developers? What are we getting in return? Are we getting a Stuytown? Are we getting a Parkchester? Are we getting co-ops and condos? Are we getting more Michelamas? What exactly are we getting in return? And again, if the answer is a preference, if you want to build more housing, it's you know, you can make that for moderate income. That's not a lot. And so I think, you know, just to sum up, because I don't want to spend too much, but just to sum, as I have already, but just to sum up, this framing of housing to address the housing shortage and to address the housing crisis as making it a supply and demand issue to help Black and brown New Yorkers is wrong. It's inaccurate framing, and I don't want to use the word exploitative, but it is. It doesn't address the real meat. We have the capability at this commission and the mayor as well to address housing with actually addressing affordability, and this is the most modest way to do it. And so for that reason, I vote no. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Kermani.
Thank you. And first, thank you to the department for all of the work that went into this, and thank you to the chair for explaining a very many thing. It's interesting to, as I sit here and as I have for a while, and like Commissioner Benjamin and everyone, all the commissioners, spending a lot of time with this and thinking about it, that to align myself with everything everyone has said. And align myself very clearly with what Commissioner Goodridge said and vote differently. And I just want to talk about that for a minute. So, as a 30-year renter in Brooklyn, still a renter, and rent burdened. This is my role here is, it's hard to separate the personal from what's going on, but my role here is also to do that. But this plan affects me personally. And I think about where does, in fact, like equity show up? So I feel torn. I'm voting yes, but I feel torn. And as we know, many of our zoning laws are from 1961. We do need change. And there's no way to separate out, as Commissioner Benjamin said. I can't put conditions on this. There's no way to separate out those. And so perhaps it's my relentless optimism and faith in communities and people that equity also come in the implementation. And what will be, I think, the question for me there, and one that I will be paying attention to, and one I think communities should be paying attention to, is what will be the oversight and accountability in permanently affordable housing and communities having say. Bless you. And I've just a couple more things to say. And as we think about affordability and development and the need for more housing, and this speaks a little bit to what Commissioner Goodridge said about more Mitchell-Lama, more, there is a movement for social housing in this state, in this city, lesser known among public housing residents. If you talk to public housing residents, as I do all the time, happy to talk about that work. Can the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity expand or be interpreted or be held accountable to grow with that objective of social housing? I certainly know that it can't if we don't change zoning. So again, kind of goes back to that tension. And then finally, I think really important is again talking about NYCHA, and the bigger question for me, as I have said to many, I've said this to the chair, is what is the role of zoning in NYCHA and public housing and with public housing residents? It feels to me that it underscores a feeling and a narrative that is somehow NYCHA and public housing is separate from the rest of the city. And it is an incredibly offensive narrative and practice. It's often practiced. So what is the role of zoning in public housing? and in NYCHA. And I would like us to be able to have that conversation, and more than that conversation, and would like that conversation also to be led by residents of NYCHA. So I remember, and I will wrap up, both being an organizer and then working at NYCHA to see what that was, going to general meetings or conferences on affordable housing, working kind of for public housing and kind of being looked at like, wait, why are you here? This is about affordable housing. And thinking, oh my God, public housing is the most affordable housing. And the same, I don't want that to happen with zoning. This is a zoning meeting. Why are you here with public housing? So, with tension, as there always is, but really recognizing the need for change. 1961 zoning rules, we don't live there anymore. I vote yes. Thank you.
Commissioner Mann.
Thank you. So I'll first by saying I'm an enthusiastic yes on the City of Yes proposals. And let me just talk through a little bit why. Number one, I don't think the Department of City Planning or the City Planning Commission can solve the city's housing crisis. I don't actually believe that. I think we have a part to play, a very important part to play, but the other agencies, HPD, HDC, NYCHA, on and on and on, have to do their part to make this housing puzzle come together. And I'm hopeful that over the next couple of weeks, as this proposal goes to the council, the other pieces of the housing puzzle will start to fall into place a bit more clearly. I think this is us, the Commission, and the Department doing its best to open up opportunities for additional housing growth, but it doesn't solve the problem single-handedly. It really does need to come with other policy efforts. And it's heartening and encouraging, I would say, that at least now, for the first time, at least since I've been doing this work, there seems to be an emerging housing policy conversation happening at the national level, where elected leaders at that level now understand that housing is a fundamental challenge in the U.S. And I think we'll be pushing local governments like New York City to be doing similar efforts around the country. That's my hope anyway. I wanted to offer just a few points of food for thought, maybe the conditions that Commissioner Benjamin and Commissioner Kamani alluded to as well. I think one is that I do have a little bit of concern that the rush around office to residential conversion was a function of a very specific and particular economic moment, and that it is prudent for us to think about what that will do to the core of our city over the course of the next couple of decades, and not accidentally not being able to anticipate a swing back. And I do think there's some prudence that are required. The Manhattan Borough President recommended a sunset provision for us to re-examine that question. And I do think the future of downtowns requires a little bit more work. And I think this proposal reflects a moment in time when we were very, very eager for that policy to save us, the office to residential conversion. So I just want to introduce a little bit of cool water on that point. On the NYCHA piece, it's to me a little bit distressing that the Commission is making this change. I think NYCHA should be allowed the same rights as private property owners are, and by removing it from this proposal, we are limiting the authority's ability to seek funding through all kinds of creative ways to address its needs. It's unfortunate to me that NYCHA has become a punching bag for so many decades, and that we are actually removing the tools from its toolbox. So I respectfully disagree with that approach. And then on the parking, I do think this is one of the most far-sighted pieces of this puzzle, albeit one of the most politically challenging. Here, again, I don't think zoning is the only answer, and I hope the administration, City's Department of Transportation, can think about a residential parking permit program that works in tandem with zoning, provide some residents some comfort that parking is available while simultaneously not adding to the cost of housing, which parking requirements clearly do and have been well documented. So in sum, I think that this is the department and the Commission doing its part to solve the housing crisis. I do think it will require many others, many other agencies to participate in that solution. And again, I want to echo the chair's comments and thank the staff on this. I know how much heart and soul must have gone into this, and appreciate all the time and energy that you put in. So thank you.
Commissioner Mudden.
Thank you. So I also want to thank everyone who's participated and made this proposal come as far as it has. I have also expressed my concerns, and one of the biggest is coordination with agencies. So I'm really confident that we have done the best that we can to shape this proposal. It's not all perfect, we know that. And I really hope that our sister agencies hear us and provide the necessary guidance and support that the proposal needs just to tighten it up just a little bit more. So my vote is yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
I want to start by acknowledging the importance of the work that the Department of City Planning has led by activating a citywide analysis, but also a public discussion to evaluate how zoning modifications can help address the shortage of housing in New York. In particular, I very much appreciate the effort that the department took on to communicate and clarify the information, really aiming to engage everyone. And I also especially want to thank the public for voicing their positions. As my colleagues have said, this proposal includes several changes that are controversial yet necessary to increase the supply of housing in the city. But despite these important proposals, I respectfully vote no, reflecting a difference of opinion in what I acknowledge is an open debate. I could not support this text amendment in its current state unless this addresses, number one, the lack of affordability mandates across the proposed changes, and number two, the changes affecting campus infill development in public land. While I applaud the recent decision to adjust proposals affecting infill development in NYCHA, I agree with the Brooklyn Borough President's recommendation to exclude all of public land. In closing, I want to thank the department for the responses that I received to several of my questions, because I understand that this is a massive undertaking and every minute counts. But as I have explained to the staff, there are questions that remain unaddressed, particularly research that substantiates the assumptions at the core of the City of Yes, some of which have been carried out by other agencies. Finally, as this proposal continues to evolve, in honoring the support provided by the Brooklyn Borough President, I urge the department to address all of the conditions that they've put forward in their statement. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
I would like to thank the staff of City Planning who during this process met with us to help understand and clarify concerns that each of us raised during this process. I would also like to extend my gratitude and appreciation to all the community boards, civic associations, and all those organizations who weighed in on this truly monumental zoning action. Hearing from those, whether you're for it or against it, is absolutely critical in making a decision like this. This is a bold and ambitious plan, one of which I've gone back and forth since it was certified. There is no doubt there are sections of zoning, some of which date back to 1961, that need to be updated to address the issues of today. We can acknowledge that there is a housing shortage, and it's truly sad to see the number of homeless individuals, families in New York City on the constant rise. The intent of this proposal is to help alleviate certain restrictions to create more housing and affordable housing. The term affordable has a different meaning for a lot of people, and the struggle of being able to maintain in their home and survive is a true challenge. During our nearly 15-hour hearing, we heard from the public who expressed their concerns, frustrations, as well as those who thought this was a step in the positive direction. Overall, the creation of more housing is necessary, and this proposal, while not perfect, is the mechanism before us today to help create that. Although we have to vote on this proposal as a whole, I have strong reservations in several areas which I feel City Council should take a closer look at and modify through their own review. Those areas are the ADUs, the outer transit development areas, the lifting the parking mandates, the side yards in the lower density R1 through R5, and the UAP. ADUs are a concern for me because I think it puts a strain on the aging infrastructure, and the code requirements have not been truly clarified yet through DOB and DEP. And that has a concern for me, along with the property tax implications that homeowner may incur. As for the costly parking mandates, I'm a Queens resident. I live out in Queens. Lifting the proposed elimination of parking would have a huge impact on the outer boroughs, specifically sections of Queens that do not have significant transit access. Bayside, Rosedale, St. Albans, Hollis. I can go on, Whitestone. And, I live in Richmond Hill. I live within a half a mile of a transit. I still need a vehicle to get around, to get to where I'm going.
because of where I work. So this does have an impact, and I do hear when they were testifying, I hear the frustration and concerns from residents who have observation, they don't agree with it, sorry. With regards to the outer transit area, you know, as Commissioner Benjamin mentioned, you know, with the Long Island Railroad and Metro, there are train stations there, yes, but these trains run every 35, could be 40, 45 minutes when you look at the train schedule. And I don't know if there was a commitment from the transit to say, okay, we're going to increase service, and that is a concern for me because I can imagine that person that has to travel that distance, that has to wait that long to get home. I can't, you know, I have the luxury of having a vehicle to get around. So those who rely on the transit, I feel for them. With the UAP and the MIH, I do feel that we need to require the deepest affordability as possible. In the end, I vote yes for this proposal, but I do ask that the council review further the items that I mentioned. Thank you.
A favorable report as modified has been adopted on calendar number 2.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Do we have other business before the Commission today?
No, Chair Grodnick, there is no other business before the Commission today.
Do you have any further announcements today?
No, Chair.
Okay. Let me just conclude with a moment of appreciation for this group here. This has been a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of time. We had a very long hearing. It's a complicated proposal. I'm speaking here, of course, about item number 2. The rest of them are complicated, of course, but that was the biggie for the day. And I just wanted to thank all of you because obviously this is time, effort, and I'm very, very happy that we are moving this proposal forward. And of course, we'll look forward to continuing our conversation with our partners over at the City Council. So thanks, everybody. And with that, we are adjourned.
The time is 12:28 p.m.